G'day, legends. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. So far, a fantastic week. I know that it is a Sunday, but I hope the weekend blues don't have you too bad heading back to work tomorrow. I know school holidays are ending here. Damn. Anyway, hope you're having a great day. So today, as always, we do have a lot to go. We're going to look at the maps. Of course, we need to look at what is shifting in Kursk, what Ukrainian officials have said. We also need to look at what's happening around Pokrovsk. But we need to zoom in on Pokrovsk, not just on the map, but we need to zoom in on the economic loss that Pokrovsk would be if Russia is able to occupy that area due to the amount of mining that sits there too. We need to talk about the brutal recruiting that has been picked up by the Western media inside of Kyiv. I know we've seen a lot of this happening throughout Ukraine, I'll say, but some of these videos will show you from Kyiv. We know this has been happening. People grabbed off the street checking papers, some men too afraid to leave their homes. But it's the first time I've actually seen this really floating through the Western media. We need to look at a little bit of footage too on some fiber optic drones as well, cruising past some electronic warfare systems. But where we need to start? Well, the big news of the day, and I'm guessing it's in the thumbnail, it's in everyone's bloody thumbnail and title, of course, is with this Su34 that has been lost, seemingly along with the pilots as well, although we don't have that much information. Fighter bomber put out this, Earth is Sky Brothers, with a photograph of a Su34 in black and white. Typically a little bit cryptic, as always, fighter bomber, but we are pulling from this that the plane and the crew has been lost from this. Now, there has been so much come out of what this was. It's so straight away people claiming F-16 shot this down, and we're going to just talk about this at length because none of the more reliable Russian pages are saying that it was this. They are saying it was that it was. Well, they're not exactly saying what it was, but they're definitely saying it's not Ukrainian air defense or Ukrainian anti-air or the F-16. Now, people are saying, but there are Russian sources claiming this. There's a screenshot that I've seen going around that is just a translated text. And as well, I've had a lot of people say, no, that is a Russian source claiming a Ukrainian source, blah, 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 all this stuff. At the end of the day, information like this is so difficult to know. What do we always say about of fighter aircraft? Wait for any sort of photograph and some level of confirmation also. But at this point in time, there's no rock solid evidence other than people online with large followings saying that it was an F-16 or other sorts of Ukrainian air defense or anti-air. One thing I will say in this is the Defense of Ukraine official Twitter account, who they normally report on any downings of aircraft, they haven't claimed it. And we do know the threshold for the claims there, especially with Su-34 and the 10 in 10 days, the threshold is very low and they haven't claimed any of this. And it would definitely be in the best interest if there was an F-16 engaged it to, of course, have that information straight away for all the propaganda and the informational war win that would have, especially after the embarrassment of the F-16 and the pilot being killed recently, most likely by friendly fire from, we are presuming, a Patriot system during a large Russian attack against Kyiv. And Ukraine will definitely try and recover the reputation of these aircraft. That said, also, they won't want to risk another aircraft. Of course, people claiming that this aircraft was flying well over Russian territory. So given these factors, all the factors, realistically, it is likely something else. It's realistic, an accident or a mechanical failure. Su-34s, I refer to them as the Fab Uber. These are working extremely hard day in, day out, carrying heavy bloody bombs, a lot of bloody fuel. I think most likely we will actually see more and more mechanical failures like we have seen. We'll talk on the Fabs in a second, but this is where the informational war, some people just don't care, and people should care, but maybe they don't. And this was very well said here by this Colby Badwa. He says, pay very close attention to which accounts are claiming that an F-16 is responsible for downing the Su-34. This is illustrative of who cares about facts and who does not. And one of the most annoying things, at least in my side of the world, is people don't care about facts in news. They care about entertainment in news. But Again, I think very well said there. But we're seeing so much like this by very, very large accounts. So this account here, footage of a Russian Su-34 crashing. Earlier reports indicate that it was shot down by an F-16, if confirmed. And then this video here. And this guy then rightfully points out, no, this is just a cropped and mirrored video from this Ilya Ponomenko back in July 2022. So, of course, this is just spreading disinformation to people that should know better with very, very large audiences. Professor of Economics, a board member and founding rector of American University in Kyiv has shared just blatant disinformation about this going down. And then this goes even further down the rabbit hole. If we have a page 18 days ago, a Ukrainian jet, date unknown. We know the date, we know the jet. It was neither of what these are claiming. Now, Live UA said this: rumours Su-34 from today's fighter bomb post was shot down a dozen kilometres from the front line and air-to-air kill by an F-16, coinciding with the first official images of the A9X Block 2 in service with Ukrainian Armed Forces, an air-to-air missile. Now, this, in my opinion, is extremely unlikely. Remember, when I look at things like this, when I look at these claims, I use Occam's razor theory. What is most likely? If you see hoof prints in the mud and you're down bloody in South Australia here, you think horse, you don't think zebra. Use this. Okay. In good conditions, an AIM-9X has range of 20 to 35 kilometres, 12 to 22 miles. That is not that long, considering Fabs are flying at 50 kilometres behind the line, dropping these Fabs. Again, the realistic of a F-16 being across Russian territory, not just engaging something in Russia, but in Russian territory at this point in time is extremely unlikely with the huge reduction in air defence we have seen in Ukraine recently. Of course, that air defence is used to cover the flights of those aircraft. Very unlikely here. Again, we'll wait for more confirmations, but just shit like this, it angers me because it's just straight away spread of propaganda one way, the other way, through the pages, picked up by people who should know better with tens of thousands or millions of impressions at times. And you and me sitting back here going, we just want to know the bloody truth of what is actually happening, whether we like it or not, or whether it's entertaining or fits our narrative that people have set or not. But I'll just do my best to cut through the BS and tell you like it is. Anyway, if you want to actually support me, I've set up one of those buy a coffee things, but I set it to buy a beer. If you want to go, I'll link it somewhere below. I don't know. Regardless, we talked about Su-34s dropping these Fabs. Now, I believe it is of utmost importance, though, of Ukraine to try and actually reduce the free air movement these Su-34s have. Let's say this was engaged, okay? This is the first one I've seen engaged in a couple of months. These have been dropping thousands of bombs, tens of bombs a day, causing bloody havoc. I think in the next couple of months or couple of weeks into the months, as winter starts setting in, Ukraine needs some way to counter these Su-34s dropping these Fabs. As I'll show in a video here, Russia has vastly increased the lethality of these Fabs, not only by larger warheads on them, but also has vastly increased the accuracy and both range as well. And into winter, like I've spoken about previously, the front line will grow more and more stagnant due to winter and the conditions and the hastily prepared frontline fortifications in some area because it has been falling back. These Fabs could be devastating here if Ukraine can't counter these Su-34s in one way or another. So this is the video that I'll show you here. So we have then a Ukrainian position fortification in this tree line here, and we see 4 by Fab 250s. I think you just see the other one off here, but landing along this tree line. And I won't show the rest of the footage, but it comes up over. Then the tree line will be in the telegram if you'd like, but you can see even the 250, the amount of bang in each one of these, but also dropping linear and or adjacent. I'm not sure which way, in relation to the jet, but you can see the huge increase in the accuracy of these and the devastating power. I think it's of utmost importance that Ukraine has some way of getting up on top and taking down these Su-34s, not the Fabs. It's not worth hitting the Fab in the air for cost to cost. You need to hit the jets even if this did go down and it was a jet that shot it down, that's one in a couple of months. Russia probably has somewhere between 150 and 200 of these. That's even taking into account some of the losses, and we don't know the exact maintenance of these at the time, but we do know UAC, they are delivering batches every couple of months. Most likely it is net neutral or net positive of manufacturing to losses of these, especially in the last couple of months. So that is going to be one of the biggest parts, I believe, of winter if we don't see some way of actually countering those. Now, advisor to President Zelensky, Mikhailo Podolyak, he has said on public television that the Ukrainian public will be presented with Zelensky's victory plan in the coming days. So we will see that as well, and we'll break it down and we'll go over what's in it, what's not in it, what is realistic, what is idealistic, and where does the future of this go. So that's all to come. But we won't see all of it, as we do know some specifics will be classified. What those specifics are, well, it's probably going to be specific targeting, specific weapons, and specific control from other nations as well, with ISR capabilities, intelligence capabilities, all of that, too, whether from satellite, from ship, from P-8 Poseidon aircraft, from drones over the Black Sea. But again, we will break it all down as we go. So let's then have a look at the maps. Now, this is where we will start. We have said that Russia has been having an exponential increase on control on the front line. And we can see this, that since June, it has been increasing from 108 square kilometres, these are by Ukraine's own deep state numbers, up to just 410 kilometres in September. Now, what I will say is in September, there were other pages saying that this was more like 500, and then War Mapper, who's far more conservative, if you compare any of these other numbers, you can see that he was above this too. And up to October 12th, we have been at 106 square metres. That doesn't take into account today's. So we'll wait and see if these can be exponential, and we'll see what winter occurs as November hits and things start dropping in temperature. So it's just worth being aware of this. Now, where we need to come, this is the map. Of course, we have Ukraine, the centre, the capital of Kyiv. Red areas occupied since 22, the purple since 14, the red check areas that Russia has got in the last 24 hours, the blue area Ukraine has got in the last 2 weeks, green over 2 weeks, blue back into Russia. This is an area that Ukraine is occupying, where Russia is having some offensive actions at the moment. Now, it's annoying that this doesn't show where the Russians were at some point, but we can see some shifting in here today. So we step back to then yesterday, we come through to then today. Sorry, let's step back, and you can see both on the west and on the east. Look at the west, come forward, increase in grey zone, decrease in Ukrainian controlled territory, and down here on the east in Borky, you can also see a large pullback of blue territory here back to this road. So let's actually measure this, because we'll get an idea. So it's just on the other side of this road, some sort of 5 kilometers of pullback there, as we can see this changing. Now, one of the things we have seen operating up in Kursk is these fiber optic drones. Now, this is very interesting footage. We're looking at a Russian drone FPV here. This is connected by a fiber optic umbilical bloody fishing line. Now, this ute pulls out here, ute, truck, whatever you're going to call it. We'll call it a ute because I'm Australian. This on top here is an electronic warfare jamming system. Now, this will do nothing if it is on, but it'll also do nothing to a connected physical drone like this. This is why these tow drones have been causing havoc in some areas. This won't have anything, but it is funny that it just cruises up past this. The driver would have seen it come around, and then a direct hit on that Ukrainian tank from there. So I believe we'll see more and more of these tow-style drones being used. Now, what has Zelensky said about Kursk in his nightly address? Of course, we talked about what Sursky said yesterday, with Russia putting some 50,000 troops into the Kursk region to have an offensive, and he's saying they've removed off other areas of the front line. Again, we'll wait and see. We spoke about how we think that was more informational for Kursk and trying to save what is left there, because I personally don't see that as a net positive through the war. I see Kursk being a net negative, and the reason why we're seeing a lot moving, at least at that speed, it may have moved anyway, but at the speed we have been seeing it, is the amount of troops put into Kursk. Good troops and good equipment as well. But Zelensky has the Pokrov's direction well done. So that's all we've got. In general, Donetsk and Zap directions are facing very difficult conditions, fierce enemy actions. And then for Kursk operation, we're speaking about at the moment, There were attempts for Russia to push back our positions, but we are holding the defined lines. So Zelensky is saying that the defined lines in here are being held. But maps are showing that it is moving rearwards on that front. So let's have a look at another strike. This is, we break down some of this purely, I don't show you every strike, but I show you ones that I believe are strategically or tactically important. So where we're going to come down, this is actually Vuhledar front near Vodiane. So we come down in here, and where we're then looking for is we see this Ilininka area in here. Now, it's not this bridge here, it's this bridge here crossing. We have seen a Russian missile take down this bridge. Of course, this is going to vastly limit the amount of logistics into these areas as well. It does shock me that Russia's taking down these bridges now. I don't know why there hasn't been strikes on this weeks and weeks previously. You can see the other bridge to the other direction here has also been hit. I'm presuming by the look of the sort of loop in it, it's that one. So that one's been taken down by the start of this footage. And then this one, which already you can see has some damage but may have been passable, is hit by a missile. And look, you might pass that in a short wheelbase Mitsubishi Pajero, but you're not passing that in a tank. So we have seen that there. It'll be interesting to see what changes then occur on this front. So let's then turn this on, and we then see just to the south of where we're looking at that bridge, an area from Vodiane has come under Russian control in this direction right in here. I don't know. No, I don't have an update for you right in this direction at the moment, but we will just come down a little bit. Now, you're going to have to bear with me because this isn't the easiest to find, but it was right between Prutny and this Poltavka as well. There's a very small area here called Lavadny. This is in the Huliapol direction up right here. So let's have a look, and we do have, oh, that's not the right one. Oh, yeah, it is the right one. Sorry. Apologies. We do have this movement right here. So this is Lavadny being this red dot. Lavadny here. Russian army restarted advances in Huliapol district and took control over the village of Lavadny. So it is saying that Russia has come up into this area. As you can see by the green, this is where the Ukrainian 2023 counteroffensive did push in areas as well. You can see this is sort of as all part of the Staromorsky Urzani front line. So a push in and around here, at least claimed by Syriac maps. Now let's just move. We'll do Pokrovsk sort of area. So this is Hostre, Orivsky, Kurakove front here. And we do have one update in here too. This Maximalivka, situation west of Donetsk city. But you get an idea, this is just below Hostre. So this is all in this sort of Kurakove front. Russian advances inside have now control over 40% of the locality. So look, it's so difficult to show where exactly, but I reckon this is, actually somewhat-ish similar to these maps if you take into account maybe the grey zone in here. But again, we can see definitely some level of control through here, and street-to-street battles will be taking place. So while we are in this direction, let's see. Well, there's no changes shown on this map here. We only have one other change. Actually, I want to show you that before we come back down to Pokrovsk. This is important. So this is the Pishani front, and of course we have Kupiansk, which is the central hub in here. But then we also have, of course, the Oskil River, which any watercourse makes a pain in the bloody arse. Now, what we have seen today is by then deep state map that Russians have reached this road. This road is the main road connecting then, of course, north and south in this element. What we presume, and we've been saying this for months, what Russia is trying to do on this Pishani front is reach the Oskil, at least strategically under fire, trying to split this into a north and a south element to break up logistics and make it easier to either push to the north or to the south. And it does look with this main road that Russia is closer, at least, to getting their objective here. This main road technically could have some strategic level of cut off. Also, even from this main road through to, I think this is the train line, we're talking about 1 kilometre, maybe 1.5 km, about a mile to the Oskil itself. So I believe more push will try and get to here, use that as a natural barrier, split then a north and south element. Of course, we have seen these bridge. We saw this bridge here, I believe, just near Borova, the taken down also. So, of course, you've got a large water source through here. If you're trying to get a bloody magazine to a bloke right here, you're going to have to come all the way through and maybe up like this if there's targeting of bridges. All this does This is logistics. You don't need to cut off logistics. You just need to make it bloody worse and worse. So let's go from Izium. That's more fair. You're just making it more and more like long to do it. So you're having to do like a 70-kilometre round trip rather than just doing a cheeky sort of one of these ones through, I can't even get my ruler, one of these ones at some point. So just lengthening logistics too can be a real pain in the arse. So I think that is a very important update. But we'll push back down into Pokrovsk sector in here. Now, no changes shown on this map today, but we do have then a couple of things I want to talk about here. And of course, we do have a Syriac maps update. Now, this is not showing too much different really. Where we're talking about is Mykolaiv, Krasny Yar, Kryty Yar front line. And we see these three red dots and a movement in and around the train line sector in right here. Now, we do see a shift on this, at least push back. Now, this isn't territory regained because it would show blue, but at least a reduction in grey zone, and the Russians may have been forced to push back with elements here of where the Russians are controlling. So there is some change on this map today, but it's not exactly clear what yet, but a pullback into here. Now, I wanted to show you one thing on this one that I've drawn up here. So I showed you that change and the ability to use TOS-1s. You're trying to get Pokrovsk. I think by winter, Russia really want to be up near to Pokrovsk, at least heading into that election. Again, with how slow it has been moving right here, it's been moving a lot down in the south, but here's really, really been slow. We will see, at least to have more fire on here, as it does have huge effects on the economy. But right, let's go the furthest, closest 2 points is say 7Ks, but we go the center to back somewhere where an artillery piece may be, you're talking 14, 15, maybe 20Ks. This is out of range of TOS-1 Alpha Russian heavy flamethrower. I believe in here what Russia's going to want to do to bombard Pokrovsk. I think they'll want to get this front line into some area where they can employ that system, as well as giving the Fabs more security by trying to have a more of a buffer zone out around here by the fighter aircraft coming in. But I believe that they will be trying their best to get within about 10 Ks to have a system there. Like the front line, you're not putting that system there. There's not that many of them, and they're a massive bloody target. And of course, you'll see it on bloody thermal from a mile off. I'll see it from here. But I believe that is what they will be trying to do to have more bombardment there, similarly to like we've seen Kurzkove being hit recently, similarly to we saw Uladar hit with those before, then those assaults hit. So I believe they'll be trying to push to employ that specific system. But we need to talk about Pokrovsk and the more effect that this will have. And this article has come out through Western media as well. Threatens to finally topple the city of Pokrovsk. This carries both military and economic risks for a beleaguered Ukraine already bracing for its most challenging winter of the war. And we have seen this, that Ukrainian officials have said that this will be the most challenging winter so far. And I think not only in the towns and cities with the electricity, but with those fabs being more efficient and in greater numbers as well. Once vibrant city of 80,000 people is object of a Russian encircling move. But Pokrovsk's fall could have even more of an insidious impact on Ukraine's ability to keep fighting. The city is the source of most of the coal used for the country's steel and iron industry, once the backbone of the Ukrainian economy, still its second largest sector. Though production has fallen less than 1/3 of its pre-war levels, that metallurgical coal is needed to produce pig iron, which is what feeds the majority of Ukraine's steel furnaces and a significant chunk of industrial exports. So, of course, this has a huge effect, like it says, on its tax and, of course, Ukraine's economy. Without steel plants, the Ukrainian economy will die. It is very, very important part of our economy. And, of course, this, Pokrovsk, is a huge, huge part of this. While Pokrovsk has already lost some of its value as a Ukrainian transit hub, with roads to the north and east but unviable, it still serves as a check to further Russian conquests in Donetsk. The city's loss would be operationally significant, although we're told that it was not, but much depends on the price that Ukrainian military exacts from the Russian forces in the upcoming battle. So again, at what cost is Russia going to push into here? At how many troops are going to be lost? Of course, this is what we hear, is the amount of losses that they are taking, that these victories, although they may have victories, these are Pyrrhic, that the costs that Russia had to take Vuhledar, to take Avdiivka, to take Bakhmut, to take X, Y, and Z is that large that eventually we will see a collapse there that's not meeting the replacement. The economy can't keep up with getting new troops and arming them, fueling them, feeding them all of this, although so far we have not yet seen that come actually into account because of the collapse that some people are saying that this is not meeting it. Well, we haven't yet seen that. Will we see it in the future? I don't know. Maybe, and we'll report on it if we do. Senior fellow at Russian Eurasian program here, the most important consideration is that it opens up a path for Russian forces to push further north and west. So if it pushes up through here, then further north and west from Pokrovsk. Continuing. If the city falls, the Russian forces retain momentum, it could serve as a springboard for further Russian advances. Once Pokrovsk is lost, until Pavlograd, there are fewer suitable areas to anchor a line of defence. And, of course, where we see, if we zoom out from Pokrovsk, we look at Pavlograd, of course, a long, long way back. What we have been seeing between Pokrovsk and Pavlograd, more fortifications being made. But if Russian forces were able to get somewhere further in here, maybe behind these lines of defence in Zap, that could be a catastrophe on the front lines. If Russian forces do get to the west of Pokrovsk, there will be another concern beyond the open road to Dnipro, the risk of Ukraine's main source of metallurgical coal, which is mined nearby, even during wartime. So they've been mining here as well. That this will have a huge hit on the economy, especially if there is some negotiating deal made and this doesn't fall within whichever side of that DMZ potential, whatever it's going to bloody be, is signed. If it needs to be fought back through or not, with Trump saying he'll end the war in 24 hours, if you're a Russian commander, you may be sitting there going, right, we can't rely on that he's not going to win or not. We don't know. We have under a month to take this area, or at least have it under somewhat of control. So I don't know. Further, let's read. Second, the Europe. Oh, did I read this one? Yeah, I did. Apologies. Second, the European Union, despite years of rhetoric about financially assisting Ukraine, still maintains some distorting trade policies that actually favour Russian iron, even during wartime, over Ukraine's export of the same product. We spoke about this rhetoric yesterday, that we hear European Union, NATO members saying that the rhetoric is that this war is existential for the EU, that it's existential for NATO. If they truly believe this, if Starmer or Schulz or Macron really believed that it was existential, that everything is going to collapse if Ukraine doesn't win right here. If they honestly believed that, they would have no problem sending in more weapons, signing off on long-range strikes, not importing a bloody gram of Russian iron. It is rhetoric, and this would, if I was Zelensky or a Ukrainian official, it would absolutely do my head in when you tell me whatever it takes for as long as it takes and this and this and this. Can we have a Taurus system? No. Can we have older fighter jets? No. Can we have another this, another that? No, no, no. It's rhetoric that is beginning to fall over. And that would be unfathomably frustrating in Ukraine. And I really believe, depending on how this war ends, there could be a real, you guys really let us down attitude from a lot of soldiers towards NATO and the West, depending how this then ends. And that's not even considering soon-to-be-introduced EU policies, such as border adjustment tax meant to penalise carbon-intensive imports into the economic bloc. Currently, Ukraine's old-fashioned iron and steel industries are anything but green, and they could face a €1 billion export hit by the end of the decade, although I think that would likely be waived. But if Ukraine does join the EU, they're going to have to meet these targets too for green emission stuff, what is going to have then a huge effect on how costly these items are as well. So, okay, we've got a couple more maps. Let's look up into New York front right here. So there's said to be a westerly push out of here. So this is Syriac map right here. So let's have a look. We have this road. Well, this is not the easiest bloody thing to see. That's the wrong map. I tell you, boys, my tumour must have grown. No, I'm just taking it. Anyway. What we see, this is New York in here. Now, it's difficult to see because there's so much different amount of territory shown around New York by Syriac to Deep State. But if we have a look at where this road comes out to the Suka-Balka, it is saying that Russia did have some amount of push out around here, just to see these two paddocks just around here. To be honest, these maps show very, very bloody similar. But we do have one more change up and around Kislivka, which is in the northeast. So this Pani Front, Tabayevka, Kislivka road in here. And we open up this. Let's have a look. See this road running between these two areas we spoke of? See this? It's shown that the Russian forces have made it up into around, it's hard to line up a paddock on this, but right around, I'd say where about my cursor is, it's saying that there was a push by the Russian forces over the last 24 hours front over a series of trenches north of Tabayevka and west of Kislivka, trying to close up this area. And I think what Russia will try and do is close up. They have a lot of these like prongs heading out in areas. They're trying to close up these. You know, it's same as this one between Nevsky and Makivka, although some say this is closed, between Makivka and then the northwest of Novodayani here, and as well down to the south from here down to Terny. We've tried to see Russian push to Terny over the last 12 months, but that's not really been moving also. So we got one more thing to talk about, is then this recruiting. Now, this grabbed my attention because The Guardian actually reported it, and it's the first time I've seen The Guardian report this, that Ukrainian military recruitment officers have raided restaurants, bars and a concert hall in Kyiv, checking military registration documents and detaining men who are not in compliance. They intercepted men leaving a concert by a Ukrainian rock band, Okian Elzy, and some were forcibly detained. It is unusual for such raids to take place in the capital. Raids maybe on large areas, but daily we'll see guys pulled up for it, and reflects Ukraine's dire need for fresh recruits. Yes, doing this and the footage we see, this does not scream meeting replacement rates or meeting recruitment rates. Raids are also reportedly taking place in clubs and restaurants in other cities. All Ukrainian men aged 25 to 60 are eligible for conscription. Men aged 18 to 60 are not allowed to leave the country, except if you've got an exemption or enough money either to basically buy your way out, which is happening. We've seen many territory guards be pulled up on this and arrested too, as well as we've seen doctors as well for writing false reports to go back out. But again, if you've got enough money in any war, whether it's Western, anywhere in the world, you can always get out. The rich never fight unless they bloody want to. The rich just get rich off war. But we can see just some of the footage of this in clubs, in public areas, in concert halls, and these guys arresting this. And if you read through the comments in this, you can see that people are very bloody annoyed by this. The typical word you see come up is the thugs of these officers arresting, detaining guys to then go and be conscripted and go and fight. And guys I've spoken to say there are very, very few men on the street because there is real danger of this happening. And again, terrible thing. You know me. I know conscription is part of larger war. I don't like conscription. I think the governments, whether it's Australian, American, Ukrainian, Russian, whatever, the governments have a responsibility to set conditions in the country that where people will want to sign up and fight if that country is invaded, or if the country wants to go somewhere and stop a war, start a war, whatever. It has the conditions to set that people go, I'm willing to go and fight and potentially die for this. But as well, like in Australia, I wouldn't agree with guys being conscripted, because right here and now I'd be like, why should that guy be conscripted if he doesn't align with this policy or that policy? Maybe a difference in defence, but even then, in defence of the nation, but even then I think how valuable are these soldiers going to be if these guys for 2.5 years have avoided even signing up for the draft and have avoided being recruiting at all levels, even though how desperate it is. If they've avoided all of that, and you've grabbed them off the street, nabbed them off the street, chucked them here, however much training to the front, realistically, how valuable are these guys going to be for even defensive actions, let alone offensive actions that we know need to occur at some point? The last thing I'd want is someone who has been in the military before is someone who does not want to be there. I'd rather them not there. I don't know. Anyway, legends, have a fantastic day. Look after yourself, and I will see you very, very shortly. Thank you. Bye-bye.